The easiest thing is because I live here. I know it. I know this city. I was born here, raised here, live here. So I know where the stinky things are. So I know where the grit is. I know where the crime is. I kind of see from the outside looking in, the corruption, right? City Hall and the aldermen who go to jail on a regular basis. I mean, this is the kind of city that I live in. And so when you're sort of framing a crime novel, I mean, all you have to do is look out your window or read the newspaper and see which governor is going to prison this year. And to sort of, the stories sort of come. Okay. It's not like I have to create this sort of stinky underbelly of crime and corruption. It's right here. I mean, it's right out I can get in my car, drive 5 blocks, and something's going to happen. I know it is. I can just sort of look over, there it is. And, it just sits in there in your brain. And when you're writing your story, something will pop out, something that you need. And, you don't have to go far. You don't have to go far. I don't. I think it's just this sort of quest for power and position and access. That's the nearest I can sort of pinpoint it. I mean, crooked politicians are not new. We've already had them decades. Okay, we've just got somebody going to trial now who has been sort of on the dirty side of politics for what, 40, 50 years. I mean, we know they're there. We can see them clearly. They know we see them clearly, and yet the game still goes on because that's how the city runs. We're the city that works. We're the city that works in the dark too. And there are people and there are systems in place, the Chicago machine that works regardless of who's in it. And so when I'm looking at all City Hall and these departments like the Chicago Police Department, I mean, all of them have an engine and it runs on that engine and it has for decades and it probably will run like that for decades more. It's just how the system works. We're not unique, Chicago. There's New York corruption. There's St. Louis corruption. I mean, there's corruption everywhere because the people are the same. They're in there for the power, the money, the access, the machine grinding, and they're in there to win it, and they don't care who's looking. And usually it was up to the newspapers and the journalists, right? Those investigative people to sort of get in there and sort of find where the dirt is and sort of expose it. Those people are slowly going away because newspapers are slowly dying. And so now we don't have those people who have the eyeballs on City Hall and on the fifth floor of City Hall. Those people are gone. And so now, politicians, it's Christmas come early. Uh, the game's going on, and that's how it just runs. It just runs like that. And you don't have like those giant newsrooms that we used to have, right? Woodward and Bernstein are gone. They're what, 90 years old or whatever. I mean, we don't have new people to replace them, not a lot of them. And so, there the politicians are. They're in those back rooms of those restaurants, like I sort of depict in one of the books. I mean, those places exist. There are actually tables in these restaurants in the middle of the day where they sort of stream out of City Hall and sort of go to these sort of dark and sort of wonderful places where they can sort of have this silence and this solitude. And that's where the deals are made. That's where the envelopes sort of slip under the table. And that's where all of the deals and all of the little whatever until the feds catch them. And, that's how they operate. But they sort of sustain themselves by keeping the bubble small, right? Even old Mayor Daley had a saying, I don't know anybody nobody sent. That means if he does not know you or the person who sent you, you don't have access to that inner circle, right? It's very small bubble of people. That's where the power is sort of held together. And it's very difficult, or has been, to sort of burst that bubble and get this pussy corruption out of the way. I mean, it just sort of sustains itself. Harriet is a homicide detective. And when we meet her in Hyde, she's sort of coming to a new station, a new bunch of homicide, a team, a new partner, new everything. And she's got a lot of weight on her shoulders. So she's got stuff that she's got to deal with, traumas, grief, loss, sense of responsibility. But I think what keeps her motivated to do it is just that she's a cop. I mean, I don't understand what that thing is that sort of motivates a cop to sort of do this most difficult job. But whatever that thing, that nubble of I don't know what it is. I haven't defined it yet. And in fact, I'm writing the books to sort of figure out what that freaking thing is. What compels somebody to take this horrible job most of the days, put that little pea shooter on their waist, that badge, that little tin thing. All right, it's not going to stop a bullet. I mean, but they're out there on the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning, going through these alleys, trying to find whatever is out there. I mean, what compels somebody to do that? I don't know what Harriet's motivation is, other than the fact that that's what she does. She's committed to it. She's going to make sure that she gets the job done, but I haven't quite figured out why. Why? So that's my journey as I go through the series and go to develop her character arc. What is it? I don't know. I don't know what she's trying to work out. But she's in there. She's up to bat. She's trying to figure these things out, and she's committed to it. So when I find out, I'm pretty sure the readers will find out too. But I trying to figure out what is it. The other series that I did was Cass Rains, who's a PI, sort of a loosey goosey sort of a character. I heard her voice loud and clear. I knew exactly who she was, and the stories just sort of came out. I knew where she was going. Harriet, I don't, because I don't know what that thing is that compels her to move forward instead of backward. Because I've given her a lot of stuff to deal with when we meet her in that first book. She's got a lot. She's got a dead son, a dead partner. She's got questions. She's got a sense of guilt, loss, grief, all of that. And on top of that, I've given her a serial killer case. And so now I've put her into a position where she's either got to go or just crumble. And of course, stories have to move. So she goes forward. She goes into the station. She gets this case. She follows it through. But why? What is it? I don't know what that thing is yet. In the next book, Fall, she's learned to trust her team a little more. Um, she's sort of getting a little better in terms of what she's got to deal with, but she's not quite there yet. She's still living in a house with very little furniture in it, nothing in her refrigerator, no paintings on the wall, no decorations or nothing or anything. She's just there. She's just living and working. Brilliant on the job, goes home, takes that badge and that gun off, and she's stuck. And so that's where she is in Fall, a little bit further down the path, but not quite back to wholeness. And in Echo, which is the next book that comes out in December, the arc is still not complete. She's a little further. I sort of take them little baby steps by baby steps because I think most real people, that's how we move. We don't make grand gestures. We don't make grand leaps of progression in our emotional health or whatever. I mean, we sort of pick our way through like humans do. And that's what I want for the book character too. I want her to sort of struggle with this. I want her to struggle with the fact that she's not where she needs to be, but she's still making the forward propulsion. She's still moving forward instead of backwards. So little by little, she's getting more healthy as the books go on. And hopefully by the end of the series, she will be back where she was originally before all of this terrible things happened to her. So I don't have a plan. I don't have this 7-book arc things planned out for me. I just have to meet Harriet where I meet Harriet. I figure everything out as I'm writing. I don't sort of plan things ahead. The characters, as I put them on the page, sort of tell me where they're going to go. I put them in situations that I think the story needs, and they will either go this way or that way. And if they go that way, then that gives me an interesting angle to sort of work with, and then I go with that. So as with Harriet, when I'm sort of trying to figure her out, I'm also trying to figure out the bad guy too. What's making him do what he does? What makes him sort of stick to this commitment to sort of wreak havoc and then sort of carry it out step by step, because he's not giving up. She's not giving up. And then we have this battle royale sort of brewing, and we sort of come to a head with that. But they're both committed to whatever they're committed to, and nobody's going to sort of give up on it. So yeah, I'm figuring that out as I go. I got no plan at all, no outline, no nothing. It's just me and the page. Well, I chose Alderman, I guess, because my street light was out, and it takes like it's not something that they fix fast. Okay, my street light was out. I'm sitting at my writing desk. It's been out for weeks, and so now I'm a little bit perturbed. And when you call your alderman's office, you get to run around and run around. So when I'm looking for victims for crime stories, that sort of that sort of popped up. I said, hey, what happens if I would kill an alderman? What happened? Okay, and then you sort of build the story around that, and that's what I did. Alderman made me mad. Street lights out. Called the alderman's office. Got the run around. That's my next victim. Let's build a story around that, and that's how I do it. I kind of thought it would sort of be a sticky sort of a thing, But as I've gone around to talk about the book and the fact that I'm killing off aldermen, all I get from readers is yes. I mean, everybody's got a politician story. I mean, it's not that they're really bad people. They're just, I don't know, corrupt people. They people who want something, right? They want power and money and access, and they want to be the guy in the room. And so, that sort of, has a tendency to sort of piss some people off, I guess. And aldermen have a bad rep, most of them. Some are good. We've got 50 aldermen in the city of Chicago. In my opinion, that's probably 25 too many, but hey, whatever, they don't ask me anything. But we've got 50. And so maybe if one or two of them go to prison for, well, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, that's just the way we do it. But when you're looking for victims or people to sort of knock off in a crime, a novel in fiction, kind of an easy target. I kind of like the emergency cops, the ones that have been there for decades and are kind of close to retirement. They've seen it all, they've done it all, they know how the system works, and they know that these little novel ideas that the new cops are coming in with aren't going to work because the system doesn't work that way. So I like that sort of contrast, that conflict between old cops, newer cops, and how they both have to sort of work in this department to get the job done. But they've got the experience, the old emergency cops. Samansky is probably my favorite. He's been there for decades. He's wizened and hardened, and he's seen everything. And then here comes the newer cops, the females, the one because the system or the department wasn't set up for these women, right? I mean, they didn't get there to what patrol cops to what 1970 something or other. Before that, they were sort of matrons and took care of the kids and whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, now they're in the department that wasn't set up for them, and we have this clash, and the clash has continued to this day. This is now 2024, and there's still some friction there, but they're in it to win it. But I like that commercial cop. I like the old and the new, that clash between that, and so that'd probably be my favorite dynamic. I like sort of pinging it to an old case. So they find this kid in a field right off of a fraternity house. So they have that case, but they quickly learn as they go through the steps of sort of investigating it that this death, relates to one decades before. Exactly the same field, exactly the same manner of death, and exactly the same spot. So they're connected, and they have to figure out how they're connected. And they're connected by this revenge and the difference between what revenge is, what justice is, and how that can sort of be different for other perspectives. So what you might consider justice, somebody else considers revenge, and Harriet and her team have to sort of grapple with that a little bit. But that's what Echo's about, echoes of crimes parted by decades. I did have fun with it in that gray area because when you think about Harriet, she's in a position where she can sort of make the decision of what justice and revenge is. I mean, she's got stuff that she's got to work out, right? There's somebody in her past that she would sort of like to do something with. But her job, her profession, she has to follow the law. And she has this case now where she's chasing somebody with the same sort of feelings that she has internally. And so now we have that grappling, right? Justice, I don't know, not according to her job. Vengeance, she might not see that much of a problem with it because she sort of feels that in her own self. So it was kind of sort of fun to sort of deal with that gray area, that muddy area, to see just where Harriet came up on it. And she still grapples with it in Echo because it's not quite over. And so, yeah, it's fun to sort of dig into that muddy area, have it not be so cut and dried, have it not be so black and white. They're cops, but they're also human beings. And so loss and all of that stuff that has happened to them is the same as what happened to anybody else, and they have the same human feelings. So Harriet, personally, herself, is grappling with what's justice, what's revenge. Maybe it's not so bad to a certain extent. I can sort of see his point of view, but still, I'm sort of charged with bringing him in, solving the case, blah, 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 blah. So two sides, one person, the struggle is real, and it's a fun place for writers to be in terms of character development. but hopefully it'll also be a fun place for readers to sort of dig in and sort of take a look at it and say, oh, I never looked at it that way. I kind of see her point of view.